the key liberal values, freedom of people and individual rights, individual possibility to promote good ideas, and also to see how we can manage to change the perception of the people in Europe about the politicians, about the politics, but also about European institutions. So this was the reason why we promote this conference on the future of Europe, and we negotiated together with the other main political families at the beginning of the mandate in 2019. It took a little bit time to launch this process, but now here we are with this conference involving also not only politicians and European institutions and national governments and national parliaments, but also the people. And at this stage of the conference, what is very important for us is to collect good ideas from you, to organize debate, to collect ideas, and then the plenary of the conference, including also the representative of civil society, to come with some very concrete ideas on the priorities of European Union. And certainly we will discuss today about that with my colleagues from the group, Sandro, who is member of this plenary, Niku, who also has some priorities on the thematics of this conference. Tomorrow, I understood, we'll have another debate with Alin Mituța, another colleague, member also of the conference, of the plenary. We, Renew Europe group, of course, we are open to see your ideas and your priorities, but we already have some ideas what we can change in order to improve the functioning of European institutions and to put European Union closer to the people. And first of all, without developing too much, but I can come also with arguments, we want to move from let's say, vetocracy to democracy. You know that a lot of decisions at European levels are blocked because these decisions have to be took with unanimity. All the member states have to agree, so which means that one member state can block any decision. For different reasons, they can block decisions. And of course, when it's about some key decisions on touching on the sovereignty of some member states, we can understand. But when we talk about external relations, when we talk about applying sanctions, for example, to Belarus or to other countries not respecting human rights, rule of law, and so on, this became a problem. When a country like Cyprus, for example, block a decision related to sanctions for Belarus because they want to push and to blackmail, in fact, the member states to take also decisions against Turkey because it's an interest of Cyprus. So this cannot work, and this will weaken European Union. So this is the reason why we want to push a change of the treaty in order to renounce to this unanimity for some important decisions, important common decisions at EU level, and to go through majorities. Qualified majorities, or let's see different types of majorities, but the idea is to permit an evolution in the quality of the decisions at EU level, to be able to take quick decisions and also important decisions in order to reinforce Europe. Then another problem that we have, and you can see at international level, it's difficult for the people to understand who lead European Union. We have a lot of presidents, President of the Commission, President of the Council, President of the Parliament, with also Prime Minister and President of some important EU member states, without clarity who do what and who is responsible for what. So our proposal is to decide to have a president of European Union. This could be the president of the Commission or the president of the Council, or to merge these two positions, president of the Commission and the Council, with having only one. But what is important and essential, our proposal is to give the possibility to citizens to have a word to say in the election of this president. So if we will have an elected president of European Union, this president will have more legitimacy to represent European Union. So our idea is, if we will manage to have also transnational lists, so political lists representing big political families who can propose candidates for the members of European Parliament, to also have the head of the list as a candidate for the presidency of European Union. Another proposal that we want to push is to have more accountability and more transparency in the decisional process. This is the case with the Commission, because you have information about what the Commission are deciding. This is also the case with European Parliament, but this is not the case with European Council. Putting together the heads of state and government, you know, a lot of internal discussions without clarity, without transparency on how they prepare this decision. So we want to push also for European Council on more transparency on the decisions, on the conclusions of this Council, and also the debate to know the position of different member states, because otherwise you know what's happened in the member states. When we take good decisions at EU level, this is because a prime minister or another defended the interest of the people. When there are bad decisions for a member state or another, this is because of the eurocrats from Brussels, because they don't assume decisions in the Council. And we also want to push normal role in a democracy for the parliament. You know, in every democracy in Europe, the parliament has not only a budgetary role to adopt the budget of a country, but also the parliament has also legislative initiative. The parliament is the institution who decide on the legislation. And this is not the case for the parliament. And we want to have this role also, because we are representing the people. We have direct contact in our constituencies with the people, and we don't want to leave this only with the European Commission. And we just discussed the European Commission not every time have political and democratic legitimacy. So these are some key ideas, but of course we will discuss about other ideas coming from a Renew Europe group, and I am ready to debate with you about that and about other ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ciolos. And now I would like to thank Sandro Gozzi for his patience. And I'm glad that we managed to sort out all the technicalities. I will just turn around a bit, so I apologize for staying with my back. So as I was telling you, Sandro Gozzi is a Renew Europe MEP. He's member of the AFCO and IMCO committees, which means that he's the member of the Committee for the Constitutional Affairs and also the Committee for the Internal Market and Consumer Protection. He's a member of the plenary of the Conference on the Future of Europe, and I think that with this hat, actually, he will address to us today. So I will ask you a question, Mr. Gozzi. But before that, I just want to tell you that here in the room, we also have a representative from Italia Viva. So we have Matteo Brizzi, yes? So here he is, he just waved. I would like to ask you how the external political tensions or the crisis affect the European politics. So how can we ensure basically that we have a better, EU security in the future? What should be done, since you are the member of the plenary of the Conference on the Future of Europe? And we hope that after this you would also be able to stay for forward and further questions, If not,
Sorry, can you repeat the question you asked me, because the sound is not very clear. I heard the introduction, but not the question.
Okay, I will repeat then the question. So we wanted to ask you how the external political tensions or crises affect European politics. And I think this question blocked. Okay.
Can you hear me? No, now I understand. I thank you very much. Thank you very much for this initiative. I thank you very much for this invitation. I'm very happy, and I greet warmly the president of our group, Dacian Ciolos, who I see is not only doing an excellent job in Brussels, but also in Romania, if I see some recent events. So bravo, Dacian. I want to stress also that under the leadership of Dacian, we are really making the difference in the European Parliament. And as I said, after all, if the conference is there, if the conference exists, and now we have to make the most of it, it is thanks to our group, and thanks also to the relentless effort that Dacian made to promote this project, which was at the heart of our electoral campaign in 2019 in several countries, especially in France, where I was a candidate and elected. So thank you very much to you all for the initiative. I also like the word that you use in your introduction. We are talking about the future continent, and we can't talk about this common future in a separate way in 27 national spaces. So it is absolutely right. You are absolutely right in having decided to organize this event, and to organize this event across the borders, discussing on the future of this common Europe with the other Europeans, not only among Romanians or among Italians or among French. And I think that this is exactly what we want to embody as Renew Europe. We are the most European movement. Part of the Renew Europe group, the ALDE party and the EDP are certainly the most pro-European parties, and we want to promote transnational politics. Dacian has already mentioned important political reform that we promote. I think of the transnational list, I think of a merger of the two presidents in having a president of the European Union democratically chosen, but we want really to embody transnational politics, because I'm convinced that also to respond to external challenges, as you asked me in the question, we have to strengthen European democracy. And then European democracy is to build up day after day what is missing in Europe. And what is missing in Europe is a truly transnational politics. A politics which goes across the border. A politics which doesn't remain prisoner of the national space, of the regional space, which are very important for our democracy. I mean, the way you elect a mayor, the way you elect the president of the region, the way you elect the president of the republic, certainly we have to build up. And this is essential to respond to the external challenges. And they are manifold. They are manifold. I mean, it is clearly, I mean, look at the very recent events of what happened in Afghanistan, of what happened with the new political and military initiative between US, UK, and Australia in the Indo-Pacific region. But look also to the challenges that we are confronted with. China, for example, and the aggressive stance of China, the difficult relation with the neighbor, which is called Russia, the need to invent a new partnership between Europeans and Africans, a new partnership on an equal footing, a new partnership looking at Africa not only as a place where we can find important natural resources, but as a partner on an equal footing with which we can launch a new human trade and economic development initiative. And these are only few it is clear that there is a global issue and is something that should push us to strengthen our action as Europeans. So these are, and I recalled only the main, these are the external challenges which should push us to strengthen our action as a single political actor, which should push us to start to develop, to have a real strategic autonomy, which should push we Europeans to shift from the status of teenagers of security to the status of adults of security. What do I mean? I mean these external challenges should push us to take on more responsibility as Europeans to ensure our defense and our security within, of course, the transatlantic framework. And this is the first issue. I mean, confronted with these challenges, we have to develop our capability, a stronger capability. First of all, we have to identify together what are the common interests as Europeans on the global scene, what are the threats, what are the geopolitical areas where we do believe we should act together. Think of the Sahel region, for example, think of Eastern Europe. And what are also the means and the action that we want to launch together. So we are not talking about a single foreign policy, we are talking about a common foreign policy on the most important issue that we have tackled as Europeans. To do this, it is clear, Dacian was very right, to do this we have to push for the majority voting, because it is impossible to have a real foreign policy on the key issues which are of common concern if each time there is a country that for some reasons decided to block us. So I mean, we need to develop this common vision. We have to develop this common policy pushing the majority voting, and this is the basis to develop a new military capability. Because it is clear that if you don't have a common vision, if you don't have a common analysis of the threat, you cannot use then the capability that you are building upon. And this is the big issue, and it will be the big challenge which we will discuss. We are already discussing the Conference of the Future of the Union in the first meeting of the citizens who have been randomly selected around Europe, the 800 citizens. In the first meeting of these citizens, the issue of security and how to better ensure our security as Europeans was one of the main issues discussed. Sorry, there is a fire brigade before my, okay. And this is certainly will be one big priority for the months ahead within the conference and also for us at the European Parliament. And to be my last point, Ursula von der Leyen came before the Parliament, and by the way, Dacian was very clear in stressing the weaknesses and also of the action of the Commission in stressing our ambitions and our expectations in the next year. But she said one thing which is very important: her commitment to develop a new defense strategy. Her commitment together with Emmanuel Macron, who is one of the most important leaders in Europe of our European family, and we will be the rotating president of the European Union starting in January 2022. And this is a window of opportunity that we cannot miss, because there is an awareness of the public opinion that we need to do something more and better together to ensure our defense and our security. And we are ready, and we will push also in the Conference of the Future of Union to take a bold step toward this direction. This is all on my part. Thank you again. Greetings to Dacian, and my congratulations for your excellent initiative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gozzi. I know that you have to go quite soon. Do you still have time for a question from the public? Or
yeah, I got 10 minutes.
Okay. So Mr. Gozzi awaits questions from you regarding the Conference of the Future of Europe. I know that we have a couple of people here from the working group on foreign policy. So if you want to put a question, please raise your hand.
Or anything else that raised your attention, because Mr. Gozzi actually raised many, many points, not only related to the external policy, but in general to the setup and the decision-making process of the European Union. So maybe you have some questions to ask. Yes, please, Matteo.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Sandro. And as an Italian, it's a pleasure to be here to present Italia Viva. As an Italian, it's a pleasure to hear Sandro and all the other guests. And Sandro was really, really clear about the European needs for foreign policy. And so that's in the previous political school of Italia Viva, Meritare l'Europa, in which some friends of us were participants, we prepared a policy paper about the future of common foreign security policy. And this is clear, but my question to Sandro and to all of you is how it's possible for us to let our colleagues, our friends, to let the youth understand that a stronger, safer and faster European Union is needed. Thank you.
Okay, I will note the question down for the speakers that can take the floor afterwards in the Q&A. And Mr. Gozzi, please, if you can react to the question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, yes, thank you. I've seen the work that you did at the summer school of Renew Europe and Italia Viva. It was an excellent work. It is clear that I want to add a new threat, which help me also to answer to your specific question. We are confronted also with the new threat, as we discussed at summer school, such as cybersecurity, which is probably, according to some foreign policy observant and expert, if there was a new conflict in the future, would be a cyber conflict. And it is clear that this is another issue on which we need to enhance our cooperation. I mean, nationally, there are some countries who are very advanced on cybersecurity, others are much less advanced, but in the work that we are doing, the Special Committee on Foreign Interference in our European democracy and on disinformation and fake news, every meetings we are doing, we discover the new way of external power, China, Russia, Iran, that they use, the new means they use to put a threat our security. So how we have to convince people to adhere to our European project and to promote? But I would say starting also from this, showing clearly that confronted with the global challenges, confronted with powerful actors, like, for example, China in this case, we cannot ensure our interests, we cannot promote our values, we cannot ensure our future if we remain separate. If we don't merge forces, if we don't make an effort to identify really the common threat, if we don't make an effort to overcome national stereotype and prejudice, and to discover that, after all, in a world which is smaller and smaller, we are much more similar among Europeans, we have much more in common compared to the differences, divergences that there can be among us. I think that really looking at the climate challenge, looking at the digital transformation, the young generation are more and more sensitive to the climate and are more and more transnational. And they are perfectly aware that to tackle the climate challenge, we need at least to work better together as European, and this is at the heart of our effort with the Green New Deal, and that as European we have to push the rest of the world to go towards, to fastly go towards the Paris Agreement goals and to the carbon neutrality by 2050. I do believe, I don't want to sound naive, but I don't want to spread illusion. But I am convinced that if clear words, in a very pedagogic manner, listening to the fears of people, listening to the doubts, letting people speak and express themselves, and the conference, after all, is mainly, not only, but mainly in this phase, a listening exercise. And then explaining what Europe is doing, explaining what Europe is not doing, because it can't for competencies reasons, for veto reasons, and what could do with the reform. I think that this is would be a very worthwhile effort, and in my view, it is what we have to do. Let me just add a last information point. We have launched as Renew Group a platform where we want to mobilize on the ground in the different member states our members, but also citizens, in having the say on the future of the Union. And this platform is linked also to the bigger platform of the Conference on the Future of Union, where each citizens can organize events, put his own ideas, follow and the event of the other, exchange ideas. I would like to ask you all to use the Renew platform. I would like to ask you all to register in the platform of the Conference on the Future of Union, because that is also another way, day by day, with a lot of patience, with a lot of resilience, to fully use the potential of this democratic exercise on a European scale without any precedent, which is the Conference on the Future of Union. So please do so, and I think that this effort will be worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gozzi. Thank you also for answering the questions from the public. We will now move on to Mr. Ștefănuță. We have working groups at the Future of the Europe Youth Summit, and we asked for the participants to register for the working groups. One of the working groups that has the most registrants was the Environment Working Group, where people will work to create priorities for the future of Europe on the topic of environment. So we saw that there is a lot of interest from young people regarding this topic. There is a lot of concern. I know that you are part of the ENVI committee and also are very interested in the European environment and how can we preserve it. So my question to you, it's a bit large, but how can we save the European environment in the future? Because it's one of the most valuable things that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dumitru. I'm happy that I get to answer the easiest question of all. How can we save the planet? Good morning, everyone. I hope you had your coffees. I must admit, I am a bit nervous because I'm in my hometown and I know many of you from the online activity and from your groups and everything. And I know that even if I'm nervous, you are anxious. So it's worse for you, but you are anxious because your future is uncertain. You know, I'm 40 years old. And my daughter is 1.5 years. For me, when I talk with Dacian, with Sandro, with everybody else about 2050, these are all theoretical years, you know? These are years so far for us that we prefer to worry about tomorrow, about Friday, about the next plenary or something like that. But for you, 2050 is around the corner, is the half of your life, is the best years of your life. For my daughter, 2050 is when she will graduate college. Or even the year 2100 is for my daughter a totally realistic year. So of course that I worry a lot, and I know that you're super anxious about this issue because I've seen studies. I know what you've been through during the pandemic because I read your comments. I know how you feel. I know you're distraught. I know you're worried. So for me, my entire mandate I dedicate to this topic. There is no single topic that is more important to me than climate change and the future of the European environmental policy. When I joined the Parliament in 2019, I was speaking a lot about disasters because I really thought that what we knew so far was just going to get worse. You have to imagine that before 2019, we used to call these events low probability, high impact. you know, like floodings, like forest fires, all this. Now, I want to challenge you and say, are they so low probability or are they the norm? They're the new normal. When we left for the summer holiday in July, did we know there's going to be forest fires all across Europe? Did we know that the Arctic Circle would continue to be melting from the ice cap? Did we know all this? We do know. So they're no longer theories. It's no longer about the future. It's about now. Kaya, I don't know if you agree, but I'm very happy to see you this morning. I told you I need you to be here this morning. We discussed last night already about some of these things. But I want to say that for us as politicians, there is no greater urgency. And I'm very proud that our group declared the climate emergency, and that was one of the first resolutions we voted in the European Parliament. And I'm very proud that we, the Romanians you see in front of you, are at the forefront of these issues. Sometimes we are being attacked in the country because some of the old system, the conservative establishment, thinks we shouldn't touch these issues, that they're not you know, the main priority, but they are the main priority. They're definitely the main priority for you, and they're the main priority for many people, including other generations. Is climate change a priority for agricultural workers? You bet. Is climate change a priority for people living in Constanța, for instance, at the seaside? Yes, of course. Is climate change an issue for the entire Romanian South that might be depopulated by 2050 if we don't do anything because of desertification? Yes, it is. So it is a priority for the Romanian people. It's not just a fancy topic. It's not something to talk about on social media. It's something to take very seriously. Now, what have we really done? We have started to put forward a new vision. It's not just about, you know, tweaking some things here and there. It's about re-establishing the entire economic system to fit this new paradigm, to fit this new reality of climate change. So the Green Deal, Fit for 55, the European climate law, I don't want to use you know, fancy words, but these are not just laws to change one thing or the other, or to set a limit of reductions of 55% by 2030. No, they're an entire new economic thinking. If you can imagine, Rea, you're from Germany, right? If you can imagine that the entire German industry has already started planning to switch from the combustion engine by 2035. That is a very strong economic signal. That's the strongest one I know. That means also our economy here in Romania on the industrial platform that's just outside the city will be impacted and will change. So the signal is there. It has been given by politicians such as us, but by the industry as well, because they are thinking about the future. They're not just thinking about the next month. They're thinking of decades. And certainly you are thinking in decades as well. Now, another thing we did is, and that's the file I work on in the Environment Committee, it's called Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. This is going to be a very big file. I don't want to speak like Trump. This is going to be huge. But it's going to be huge because it impacts countries and carbon produced outside of the European Union. You know, the European Union is only responsible for 9% of world emissions. So even if we turn all our cities super green, that is not enough. The planet needs to act accordingly as well. We can't do it on our own. And I'm very happy that I know that the US is trying to do as well, Stefan, something similar, because Biden in his first terms knows that the first year of the governing is where you make the biggest reforms. Because if you miss the first year, you miss your window of opportunity, and then maybe you lose out and you no longer have it. So I'm happy that the EU will have a carbon border adjustment mechanism. So carbon that is produced by other countries in their production will be taxed at the border, because it's not fair towards our own producers to expect a certain behavior and to give a free ride to others from outside. Thirdly, I want to speak about green cities. Now, budget, I also work on budget. Budget is another instrument through which we will do the green transformation of Europe. There is a renovation wave. You know, all the buildings that are being not energy efficient, they will be renovated with European money. There's 100 billion dedicated just for that. There is a large effort for greening the cities, because our cities are becoming impossible to breathe, impossible to cool, impossible to adapt to climate change. We need to adapt. We don't only need to try to limit it, we need to also adapt to it. So I don't know if you have any Portuguese in the room. I know we have a Portuguese Liberal Party, but we have Spanish in the room, right, from Ciudadanos. And I do know that, you know, planting climate-adapted trees that are more resistant to this new climate is something we need to do already. We can't every summer just count the hectares of the burned forest and then say, well, we'll start over next year. No, we need to think ahead. And there's species of trees that are more resistant to climate change, more resistant to fire, and we need to already do those things. Now, we are in Romania, but Romania is thinking about the green future. Just 2 weeks ago, I've been in Brașov, which is a city very close to here. That was the first Romanian city that declared climate neutrality by 2050. That's a big thing. Let's give them a round of applause. Come on, go Brașov, go Brașov. It's also good for us politically because we have the mayor from that city, so yeah. This was not completely a neutral endorsement. So that is very important, and even in this city, I would like Sibiu, my own city, to take on this challenge of climate neutrality and try to be more green and try to have a greener infrastructure and try to be at the forefront and maybe one day be a green capital of Europe as well. Now, I no longer want to lecture you, but I want you to do something when you go back to your home countries and when you go back to your political organizations. You need to put pressure on politicians. Don't be good kids, be active kids. Be very, very assertive, because it's your future that we're playing with. And if we, as politicians, only think about our own mandates, about our own 2-3 years that are left, then we are doing you wrong. So go back and be very active. Go back and say that Renew Europe and the liberals in Europe are here to fight for the environment, and they are here to shape the economy of the future in a sustainable way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicu, for the inspiration, for the motivation, and for the efforts that you are pursuing in the European Parliament for the future of the next generation and for the youth. And it's interesting to speak about the elements that you put forward, because the youth actually is getting more and more involved, and perhaps some of them did not find yet the motivation to go inside a political party or to be involved in that, but they are involved in voluntary associations, organizations. We see that the civil society actually is growing and growing in terms of involvement and activities. And since we're speaking about the civil society, we're very lucky to have here Mr. Reimer Wagner. And I would like to ask him what could be then the role of the civil society in the future of Europe. Thank you.
Hello again. When I read the question first time, that's an easy one. That's what I do my life. All my life I was in civil society. And preparing to answer this question before you, that I did pretty nothing, just platitude as an answer. And I get really to what really we, civil society, needs to do. And somehow yesterday, driving from Bucharest to Sibiu, I get the enlightenment. Because we need to start to think about what is civil society. Civil society is, when I found it as a student, maybe the film club. Civil society is when I worked pro bono and made some social project for my community. Civil society is, when we founded Romania 100 here in Sibiu, debated with the municipality and politicians, and we convinced the town hall to build a community center for Sibiu after French model, and they did it. Today is working. Civil societies, when we debated in our association for embellishment of Sibiu, that they want to make the most modern street, it was this year, the most modern street here on the Dumbrevi Street, and it will be the most, I don't know, green and most modern and most digitalized, and they will really put the line for the bicyclettes, and then we just they will cut 60 trees. And then we talk with the municipality, put some pressure on them, just buy the technology, because we have the technology to save the 60 trees, not just cut them. So we saved 60 trees. Civil societies, each green activist. Civil society are all the pro bono social workers in the different field. Civil societies is really, when you are in a club, it can be music, it can be sports. By the way, you know, the biggest NGO with the most of the members in Romania is somebody knows? No. The Romanian Football Association. 100,000 members. And don't go to professional. The most of these are playing football, the blinds with disabilities, women's playing football, and a lot of young people. So we as a Nauman Foundation worked with the Romanian Football Association. It was at our headquarters. What you are doing with Romanian football? You are a political foundation. Yes, we helped them to become from the most corrupt association, by the way, from Romania to one today of the most modern. And one of the components was to work with passionate in football. So we made project management with them. We had a policeman from Teleorman there, one of the most corrupt and most poor counties in Romania. And this police officer was also in his free time a referee. And he see the poverty and he came to our training to just see how to make a project and to make something for these kids to give them a perspective. So all these are civil society. 3 days ago, we honored in the 3rd edition of the Gala Champions of Change in Chișinău, in Moldova, really people from civil society who make, by their action, Moldova a better place to live. And we honored from Code for Moldova, something for digitalization, just to this lady who are getting back the shoes for the really most needed. You can imagine how poverty can look like. But we also honored the guy from the University of Chișinău who is helping now the government to make the digitalization. Or also the guy who is saving 100 tons in a year of food to not be wasted and used to the needed. That is civil society, and how we honor them, they are champions of change. And that was the enlightenment. Because civil society is already making the earth and this place for a better place. They are shaping. There where they are in their fields, they know the needs, or they are just creative. They're shaping future. So the answer is not what civil society needs to give or to ask. Maybe let's turn it around. What can European Union, what can Europe do for civil society? Because civil society already is shaping future. They're doing a lot of good stuff. They are individuals. So empower civil society, make less bureaucracy, give them access to resources. Parties, corruption are hindering civil society. Just see what's happening in Belarus, or see what's happening, I don't know, maybe in Poland. We have seen a movie what they're struggling. Because it is civil society why these civic liberal movements appear. USR and plus are because of civil society. So now it's time for Europe, for the European Union, for the parties to give them back. I don't know, make maybe the, you know, we have this rule. It was a model took over from Hungary, by the way, at the time by the culture minister Mona Muska, that people are allowed 2% of their income or of their taxes to donate to civil society. Make it 5%, but make it 5% not just in Romania, make it 5% in each country in the European Union. Because the individuals and the people on the ground, because we always talk, the people from, we want now to talk to the people, just empower them. They knew what is needed in their field or where they are, and they will acting. Empower them, again, less bureaucracy, more access to resources, and not by subsidizing. We are liberals, we don't like subsidies. Just make it by maybe let other people to donate to them and give them this empowerment. So in a nutshell, that was all my thinking about how to help, or what civil society wants from Europe. It's very easy, just to let them to work. Of course, autocratic governments, populist governments, corrupt parties, bureaucrats, excessive bureaucracy will all hindering this. I have one short example, and this is really how stupid things are made by excessive bureaucracy. As the Naumann Foundation, we want to register here. We were already registered, and what we want was to change the address. So in December 2019, we go to the court to change the address, and that's the first stupidity. You need to go to court. Then they moved us from one court to the other, and then we have pandemics, and then the judges were striking for our pensions, and then it was a bomb alarm, and then finally they give us by a judge that we can change the address of an NGO by civil society, yes. And then we want to go to the sector 1 to move now with the changing of address from the fiscal district 1 to district 2. And then they say this, okay, but you need also the written appointment from the judge. And we get it in September 21. This year. And now we need to stay other 60 days to wait to be registered in the register of NGOs. And I'm pretty sure that this kind of bureaucracy you will get in Spain, in Italy, in all the countries, because I know in Madrid they needed 2 years to register, by the way, the FNF office. So when I point this out, that the European Union has the power to really make life easier for civil society, they have the power. And it's the power and the duty of democratic parties and of liberal parties to make something, because politicians are lawmakers, and by law you can improve a lot the life. And yes, it's their duties because they exist because of civil society.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner, for these insights regarding civil society and its importance for the life of Europe, because somehow civil society was born in Europe, and it has to keep going on in creating democracy and defending democracy. Now we're moving to the next session of the debate, where it's your turn to speak your mind. It's your turn to put questions. So who wants to put the first question? I see Victor back. Yes.
We have an icebreaker. Great.
Hello, everyone. I just wrote my question because I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. former Prime Minister, and the question is for you, but also for the others, of course. On behalf of my organization, I'm the French representative of Parti Radical, and first of myself, it's a huge honor to meet you. I know you have strong links with France, and I know you also have a huge agenda. So first, I want to thank you very much to come to us and take the time to talk with us, because I think for each one of us, it's very precious. I have thousands of questions for you, but I'm on all subjects. I'm gonna go for one, okay? Because I'm a lawyer and I'm really interested in rule of law. When you talk about making the state veto disappear, it makes me think that it is in a way the gate between confederation systems and the federal system for the European Union. The first idea we can have to make the veto disappear is enforcing the power of European Parliament. I love the idea, but we know it's kind of tricky. The documentary we've seen earlier showed us why. Maybe another way would be to infer the works, links, and projects between Euro institutions and what we call in France territoire, which is regions, cities, etc. I work for a mayor, and I trust in decentralization and local governments sometimes more than in my own country. But we feel as cities that Europe policy and Europe politics outside of tender processes are very far from cities and from us. For me, the key to stop the veto is to talk directly with territories. So create a strong link between European institutions and territories. How, I don't know. And that's why I'm asking you, what do you think about my idea? And how can I improve the links between Europe and my city? Should we create a European Regions Parliament? I don't know, I'm not sure. But I really trust that the future of Europe, and maybe the present of Europe, I prefer, is in territories, and the links between the European institutions and the territories. Thank you very much.
Interesting challenge. If the time allows, we promise that you can also raise a second question at the end of the debate if we still have time. A very interesting challenge.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. This is, I think, a large and important debate whether we have to go through federalism or to keep national states, how to deal with that, and how to involve more the regions, or let's say how to build a kind of more bottom-up approach in the European Union, because regions and local level is also about that. And Europe needs this connection with the ground. But you can sit now, because I can see you and you see me, and I think we are more relaxing that way. So I think this is a problem, for me this is a problem of the credibility of the democracy in European Union. If we don't find a way to reconnect European level with local level, we risk to lose the credibility of the democratic process. And it's also a problem of credibility of politics, because political parties are built at national level with a national agenda, and sometimes for some political parties, European Union is an enemy. So the national political parties, they don't play the game to help this connection between what we are doing at European level with what's happened at local level. It's an intermediate and not a helpful intermediate in order to do this connection. So in this way, I fully understand your question, how to push more the regions in the light of European process. I don't know if I have a solution, but what I can tell is that also being a former prime minister of a country, but also of Romania, but also former European Commissioner, and as European Commissioner for Agriculture, I work directly with regions, with farmers, with farmer organizations, because even if in a country like France or Spain or Germany, when you talk about agriculture, you can deal some things with national level, but there are big differences between, I don't know, Champagne, Massif Central, Bretagne, and other regions, and this is also the case in Spain. So this regional level is very relevant, and de facto, we have European policies connected with the regional realities more than with national realities. Personally, I think that in the short term and probably medium term, but this is also about you and your generation to decide, but short term, let's say, it will be very difficult to dismantle national level and to talk about a federation at EU level, because we have a history with strong traditions, with a kind of fear also in the European Union about a dissolution of the state, of the nations, of the cultures, and you see the emergence of populistic and nationalistic parties, and generally speaking, nationalistic parties, they are also Eurosceptics or anti-Europeans. So this is, for me, a very difficult subject to discuss about federalism against national level. So what we can do is to connect more and more European policies directly to regional and local level, with financial instruments, with a legislative approach also, and with a more democratic way to decide on European priorities. And this is for us in Renew Europe Group another priority is to think how to involve more civil society, but also regions in the decisions of annual priorities at EU level. You know that we have a multi-annual European budget with some key priorities, and then with multi-annual programmation. But every year we discuss about budgetary priorities and policy priorities. You know, we have every year this debate in the Parliament together with the President of the Commission, the State of the European Union. And the idea is to transform this debate, State of the European Union, on a debate defining the priorities for the next year on the European Union. And we would like to involve more citizens, NGOs, and also regions in these discussions about the priority. And to cut short this subject, on my opinion, this is the way for the short term and the medium term to do things. So to connect more, not only regional policy, but also health, but also agriculture policy, research policy, also on education. We can do some complementary things at European level, even if education and health are national competence. And to do this in a direct way with the regions, with mayors, and of course for that, and this is another subject on the agenda of the conference on the future of Europe, to define maybe a more formal role for Committee of Regions, for example, because this is a way to connect, to better connect Committee of Regions with European parliaments and to give a stronger voice to regions and to local people. Thank you.
Thank you. I see already many good ideas that I'm sure will be exchanged during the working groups that will start this afternoon. So I'm pretty sure that this question, and not only this one, will really be debated by our participants. I will give you some more time to reflect about your questions, so please don't hesitate. Any question is a good question, okay? So please there. In the meantime, I just wanted to return to the question that Matteo raised. So how can we ensure that the youth understands that a stronger, safer Europe is needed, and that this will bring the required peace and stability? And I was thinking, if you would like to have some comments on that, Mr. Ciolos, and also Mr. Ștefănuță, since you are the vice chair of the delegation for relations with the United States as well.
Thank you, Tana, for your very official way to do things. You know very well that I'm Dacian and he is Nicu, and so don't hesitate.
Okay, I will next time.
So yeah, I took some notes listening Sandro also about security in EU. I will leave also this to Nicu, but just some ideas. When we talk about security, it doesn't mean only the army. But the security, it's a very complex term and very complex notion in our current world. And please just think, when you have in mind the word security, please think to cybersecurity, and Sandro told about this. Please think to terrorism. This is also about security. Think about fake news and the freedom of press. This is also about security. Please think also to hybrid attacks affecting the democracy and electoral process in a lot of countries. And you know, democracy without a free electoral process, or electoral process influenced by different tools, is not a democracy. Think also to the protection of EU border and how to approach migration together with security of EU border. So all these things are about security. And when we talk about European security policy, it doesn't mean only or necessarily to have a European army. We have national armies. As long as we have sovereign state in the European Union, we will still have national armies. But it doesn't mean that these national armies cannot work together and have common intervention capacities under a European flag, for example, and to use this in a very quick way and to take decisions in a very quick way for interventions in some important place for a European Union and for the security in the world. So this is another way to do things and to talk about security. But when we talk about fight against terrorists, cyber security, freedom of press, and so on, we can do a lot of things directly at EU level, because it's clearly that in a Schengen area, for example, you cannot manage the fight against terrorism at national level or at local level. You have to do this at European level. So this is the way that we are thinking to build a European security policy.
Thank you, Ms. Farfa. I'm joking. Tana. And I'm Nico. I will also add something to what Dacian said. With my big hat of vice chair for delegation or relations with the US. I'm joking. It's a couple of thoughts that I gathered. Strategic autonomy. Is this a bad word? Is it a schimpfwort? Is it something that we should stay away from? I don't think we should, because this doesn't mean something that is directed against the US. It doesn't mean Europe decoupling from NATO or decoupling from the US, not at all. It just means the ability to stand on our own 2 feet. And we have some needs that are very, very important. You know that if we started to move a tank from here, from Sibiu, to Latvia, where potentially there would be an invasion, let's say. It would take about 40 days to get there. Russia only needs half a day. So we need to dismantle the inner borders that we still have in order to really have a meaning to European defense and security, right? So we have an important job to do ourselves inside Europe to have what is called European security. Do you also realize that internationally, there are shifts of where NATO and American troops are deployed? The bases in Turkey, for instance. We have to fight to continue to have military presence of our American allies, of our Canadian allies, of our UK allies. Let's not forget the UK is an important ally for the Union in terms of security, because that's, in my view, an important guarantee that we have still. Secondly, I would like to shift a bit your mind about what you traditionally called security. Is, for instance, the fact that fake news so much permeates Romania or other member states that the vaccination rate is at a very dismal, small percentage due to fake news. Is that a national security threat or not? Yes. Okay, I see there's agreement in the room about that. I think it is as well, especially because the ideas that permeate the society via fake news through intelligence services from the outside that don't have our best interest in mind, that is something very dangerous and that is something very potent. And one last question, is climate change a threat to national security or not? Is, for instance, Spain threatened because with the climate change reality, there will be such a high migratory push from North Africa towards Europe in a condition that, migrants are no longer a very popular subject in Europe because of the crisis of 2015, etc. So I would like we work for a concept that is broader, that includes all these different aspects, and it's not purely military, as Dacian said. Security is something more comprehensive.
Thank you, Nicu. Thank you, Dacian, that we informalized.
Now that you had some time to think of questions, I saw that Andrei Predi has the microphone. Andrei, please.
Yeah, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. We've been talking a lot about environment, security, and foreign policy. As you may know, we are here spread across working groups. I'm at the education working group, and this morning I had an interesting discussion with the representative from the Swedish youth, Anton, about school abandonment. And we were talking that, for example, in Romania, the school abandonment is mainly due to let's say, poor poverty, and he was saying that in Sweden it's somehow related to some zones and areas that have a high criminality rate. Now I know that the education is mainly a sovereign, let's say, field that each country has, but what can Europe do to, let's say, minimize the school abandonment or to improve the education in the European state?
Whom do you address the question? Everyone?
Dacian?
Yeah, I will try. So yes, the European Union can do a lot against poor abandonment and, generally speaking, for education in European Union. And please think open mind on all national competencies, talking about health and education, but you can have others also. We just told about defense and security. On all these aspects, we can keep national competencies, but to add a complementary EU level, because on all these aspects, with a more and more globalized world and integrated world, at macro-regional level, as is European Union, we can do a lot, and we have to do a lot. And talking more specifically about school abandonment, what European Union can do, first of all, it's to act to the roots of this process, to the causality. And you just mentioned poverty in some areas like Romania and other parts of Europe. So acting directly, fighting against poverty, then you will also have to reduce school abandonment. And for that, European funds are also very important. Cohesion policy, it's very important. Rural development policy, it's also very important. But investment in infrastructure, it's also important. Investment in local public services for the people, as health sector, it's also important. Also fighting against criminality, because this is another root causality in Sweden. You can do a lot, because this problem became also a European Union. Is difficult to manage only for national member states. And generally speaking about the education, even if let's say some aspects of curricula, for example, or some other elements of specific educational policies are for national competencies, but you see how successful a program as like Erasmus is, and how useful is, even if you have national universities. But more and more, we have to speak now about European research centers. Research is directly connected also with universities, and we have more and more networks, universities networks, and I think we can push also for high school networks at EU level. And we are strongly pushing also for a kind of Erasmus for high schools also, because you know the young, they want to share ideas and experience more and more younger. I remember when I had, I don't know, 16 or 17, for me it was a real adventure to move from my city in Transylvania to Bucharest. Now, for the youngs, it's very normal to go from Bucharest to Lisbon or to Copenhagen in a weekend. It's even easier to do that than to go from Bucharest to Cluj, let's say, because of lack of infrastructure. So it's normal also that education has to become more and more European, and to share experience among students, but also among teachers and professors, to share experience about the pedagogical methodologies. It's also very useful. So all these things can be done at EU level and can be supported by European funds and European policies.
Thank you very much. Reimar, would you like also to comment? Thank you.
I really intended to comment it and to grab the microphone, because I told you I was active in social field. And talking about abandon, I will address really this issue. I was in a village before Târgu Mureș. That's the biggest problem in this country. You have a nice, wealthy, well-educated city with civic activists, and 10 kilometers away you have the poorest. 80% from the Roma community there, and it was a European Union founded project, after-school project, and providing a meal, subsidizing parents. That was stupid. And we talked with the principal, with the director of the school, and she told us that all the figures, all the numbers increased because of the meal, because of the caring on people, because providing them, I don't know, a tablet, a PC, access to internet, better condition, better life condition at all at home. So they had really 2 or 3 going to university and so on. And after 3 years, of course, the project was closed because the European Union just financed for 3 years. All the projects needs to be innovative nowadays in European Union. Really, in the social field, how stupid can a bureaucrat be to ask to be innovative in fields where we know, where their people know what to do. So I believe all these foundings and all these guidelines need to be redesigned. It's not possible to make education in 3 years. They need to be generational, they need to be on 5 years, on 6 years, on 7 years, on taking these children from the 1st class to the 12th class. And it needs this kind. Of course, now it's the duty of the states to think. I didn't see politicians thinking for 12-year terms. That's why we don't have programs designed in this way. And when we talk in education, we need to really to think in how long the cycles of education are, and then design the programs. If we want to support children from the 1st to the 4th class, then 4 years, please, and so on, and so on. Or we want to take them from the 1st to the 8th class, then design a program for 8 years. So simple it is. We don't need higher. But to not be in this negative mood, the projects are good. Helping and going there in educational project for the poorest with after-school projects. The after-schools projects are proven that they are very, very efficient, and they help a lot. Are designed for 2 or 3 years term of the program. Yeah, that's the wrong way to the education. You need to design the projects for the educational cycles.
Indeed, thank you very much. I would just like to ask you, for those that are listening to us online, to just please wait for us to give the microphone to you so that they can also hear our discussion that we're having here. So I've seen several hands already. So I see one here. One here in the front. Maybe we'll take a series of questions.
Yeah, I think we should take 2 questions, and we'll start with a woman because we haven't heard a woman.
Hello, my name is Dora. I'm going to try and be quick. As you mentioned, especially in the Eastern Europe, fake news had become a tool that really threatens our society, our democracy. And my question is, have you thought about a strategy, a concrete strategy to tackle down or fight the phenomenon of fake news?
Thank you very much. And we have another question here. And then raise your energy because we'll have an exercise, actually, an interactive one with you as well included. So, please.
Okay. You talked about civic collaboration today, and also political, and many of us are part of organizations of LIMEC, but what we haven't talked about today is entrepreneurship. I'm going to put the hat of a social entrepreneur today, and I would like to ask you how could you, as members of the European Parliament, of the Renew Europe group, support this kind of initiatives of social entrepreneurs? I know there are some of European Institute of Innovation and Technology, EIT, for climate for food, and also for digital. But the funding is quite low, and also there is the Erasmus program for young entrepreneurs, but I don't know how many people know about it. And yeah, how would you promote, and what kind of policy would you take in this promoting of social entrepreneurship? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nico. So let's see. Do we start with the fake
with
news?
the
Do we start
fake
with the
news
social
questions?
agenda?
I think that Nico already touched upon this subject, so maybe he can answer.
So I'll be very frank. I don't think the European Union is doing enough on disinformation, on fake news. We are trying. There is a EU versus, what is it called exactly? It's a center, disinformation, EU versus disinformation, a center also at the EAS that is bound to tackle this. We, in the budget procedure, we try every year to give more money to this because that is not enough. But also the fact-checking instruments, they're also not enough. There was a time when they were very fashionable to look at fact-checking websites for news, but it's just simply overwhelming to do it this way. So I think the institutional answer is simply not enough, and we need to do something more. We need to work more with journalists, and through the media program, we need to finance journalists that are more active on fighting disinformation. But even more, the fake news has become political. I know because I'm very active on the health matters, and during the pandemic I've seen it. In this country, there are parties that have taken on board disinformation about the vaccine, and they're part of the platform. And they're very popular leaders like George Simion, like Diana Șoșoacă, and others. You might laugh, but she's very popular. And you need to tackle those politicians, you know? And it might be scary sometimes because you get all the hate on your page or something like that. But you know it's the right fight. And we cannot let them grow and get even more believers, more adepts, because 2024 is just around the corner, and it's not just about our mandates, but it's also about your future. So if we don't tackle that right now, everybody, you, me as a politician, Dacian, you as a commenter, you as an influencer, you as a civil society organization, it will be too late. My parents are sending me WhatsApps that I never open because they've been forwarded 1 million times, and I know where they come from and I know what they contain. And I tell them, please stop it because you don't know what you're doing. You're being a spreader, basically, of fake news. And it's really a problem that we have in society right now. Because it's not just somebody, not just some Russians in the GRU headquarters in St. Petersburg or something, but it's become our parents, you know? And when it's that close to home, we really have to stand up, talk to them, talk to other generations, and try to combat fake news like that.
Yes, Raimar, please.
You're wrong not open them, because you need to know your enemy, and you need to know how they think, that to have prepared answers for all this let's be blunt, bullshit what they spread, because the most fake news are spread via messenger services, by the way, nowadays. So WhatsApp is one of the most efficient for populists and nationalists to spread all this. I get them too, but I really read them. Sometimes I just Google 10 seconds, find the real news, put them to counterfeit, even in some of these groups where I am in WhatsApp, this crazy stuff. I just want to support what Nico has said. That's what we do in Moldova. Fake news in our work with media. Fake news is a big issue. We published a dictionary of Kreml propaganda, of the propaganda of Kremlin regarding Romania and Moldova, taking from the EU the first line and just adapting it. And we train journalists. We train journalists how to tackle it. It's a hard fight. It's very difficult. We don't know if we will have a lot of success, but to not fight is not a solution. So we just need to be more and more and more, and that's the approach, to get more to the schools. We will lose it on short-term approach. We will definitely lose this fight on short-term approach. We will just educate our future voters, future generations, to be able to read news, to be able to make the difference. We try to do it with the Center for Independent Journalism here in Romania, or also with Cristi Danileț, with them just going to schools, talking about law and teaching them law and democracy. But it's not okay if they are small independent projects. Even if we have 200 schools partner, it needs to be in all this media literacy, then that's the word, I didn't add it. So we need to teach media literacy in the schools. That's, I think, the simplest answer.
Thank you very much. Now let's have a quick reaction on the social entrepreneurship and social economy activities that the MEPs are doing in the parliament. And I think that our group, as you will definitely find out, has really pushed forward an ambitious agenda on that. Who would like to take the floor?
I will take the floor because I'm a budget rapporteur and I know the issues, I know the instruments that you talk about. And there are very few, unfortunately. Our group, Renew, was for the keeping of 125 million for youth entrepreneurship program, which other political forces wanted to cut. I have another message that came from a different question on Erasmus. Well, it was your question on abandonment. Abandonment is one story, and Dacian answered very well. But I also want to say about this generation's Erasmus gap, because of the pandemic, you had fewer Erasmus scholarships, right? 2020 was a dead Erasmus year. I mean, there were contracts signed, but there weren't many people who actually traveled. There were Erasmuses performed online, which obviously is not the same thing as the experience. So what we try to do in the budget for 2022 is to recognize that this is a problem for this generation, for this current generation, and front load, bring money forward for this year, because otherwise it would be a generational imbalance. So if we just put the money, let's say in 2024, that means your colleagues who are younger will benefit from Erasmus, but not you right now. So you need to profit from Erasmus right now. That's why we increased the Erasmus contracts by 40,000 this year in the budget procedure. I'm not sure if I'm not a specialist on social entrepreneurship, her boss is, but with the few programs that are from the European Union, we try to maintain them because they're very important. Another mobility program that we try to push a lot is to try to get seniors to move along, not just youth. I know it's not your demographic, but people 60 and over, they also want to be active in Europe. They also want to travel abroad. They also want to learn. They also want to keep working. Maybe some try to have a new career. Why not? So we have to also keep that sector into consideration.
I know that we said that this will be the last questions, but I really like when young people really want to speak their mind. Sorin just texted me on WhatsApp that I really need the microphone for 1 minute, so...
But 1 minute then, because we have an exercise coming.
Thank you very much. My name is Sorin Covrig. I am from Romania, from Târgu Jiu. I have an advice. 2 hours ago, our colleague from Spain, Laia Garrido, asked us, does your friends know about the future of Europe? All of us answered no. You need to promote more your work, what you accomplished this year in the European Parliament, and why Renew is better than the rest. You can pay advertising on social media, street banners every day, every month. When you are invited to speak at the radio or TV, give 3-4 examples of what you did as an MEP. What you did. People need to hear pure facts. For a successful USR Plus and Renew, you need to invest more in improving communication to normal people, to the non-political fans. People need to hear that you work for them. Let's make a comparison. If you do not promote your work, it's like Mozart or Picasso never presented to the world their masterpieces. Dacian Ciolos, congratulations for your yesterday win. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that Dacian, this question is for you.
No, this is let's say, structural problem for European policies, more generally speaking. I have had the same problem when I was commissioner for agriculture. A lot of people, of course, except the farmers, they were not aware that we have a common European policy and with a lot of influence on financing local production, good quality food, and so on. And with European Parliament, it's the same problem, but maybe it's easier because we have some local constituencies and we are trying to be as active as possible. Our delegation, USR Plus, we are 8 MEPs, and I think all across the country we have more than 20, 25 offices of and we share these offices, Europarlamentarian offices, we share among us, we organize events, and our presence here today, of course, on behalf of the group, as group president, I'm here, but we are present across the country with other events. Another thing is we cannot do this alone. We need to be in touch, not necessarily with national politicians, because we also have a problem with national politicians not understanding the utility of European level. But what we are also trying to do, talking about Romania, but this is also the case for my other colleagues from Renew Europe Group, is to try to educate the media, because this is another problem. Generally speaking, media, they don't know how European institutions are working, European competencies, and they don't promote because they don't explain the European decisions. And we cannot work only with some journalists based in Brussels from some maybe big newspapers across the European Union. We need a connection with local journalists to understand what we are doing in the European Parliament, the impact of the European legislation to the people. And this is another way to work. We also want to work in partnership with NGOs, with professional organizations, but also with youngs, with schools. The problem is that these last 2 years we had very limited possibilities to organize visits in European Parliament, because visiting European Parliament in Brussels and in Strasbourg will make more easy to understand what we really can do. So yeah, it's not an easy process, but if we will clarify the role of the European institutions and what we just talking about at the beginning of our discussion today about how to better connect European level with the ground, then it will be also easier for the people to understand some direct impact of some European decisions on creating or supporting jobs and or on health sector. And I think what happened now with the pandemics helped a lot the people to understand what European Union can do, because when we discuss about coordinated action to produce a vaccine and to spread, to distribute a vaccine at EU level, this common supply at European level with vaccine. I think a lot of people understood what European Union are doing with European Green Certificate, helping to the free movement of people, helped also a lot. With this quick decision to commit almost 1 trillion euros for the next years in order to recover European economy. This was also an action at the European level, and I think these kind of examples will help people to understand not only that the European Union exists, but what European Union can do concretely for the people.
Many thanks. So now I think that as a conclusion to our debate, we will propose to you a very quick exercise, and it will be quick, I promise, but you have to really use your imagination because it is a bit tricky and a bit challenging. So we will start actually with the participants. So we would like to ask you to think about one word, okay, one key word in which you would describe the ideal Europe. One keyword. So I will, yes, so my colleagues will go and, take your words. I will write them here. And of course, I will ask you at the end, so that you do not influence the participants, to also give me your keywords for that, okay? So let's start from here, and we will do the tour like that, okay?
Freedom.
Freedom, okay. Just a second, I will note here.
Empowerment.
United.
I was gonna say united.
Tolerance.
Empathy.
Equality. Diversity.
Inclusive.
There can be the same words, by the way. So
I wanted to say inclusive as well.
Ideal.
Chances. Balance.
Together.
Democracy.
Justice.
Honesty.
Working together, even if it's two words. Collaboration. Okay.
Solidarity.
Beautiful.
Multicultural.
Equality.
Opportunities. Safety.
Communication.
Education.
Connected.
Family.
Empowerment.
Youth.
Courage.
Well, same direction, self-confidence.
Prosperity. Nature.
Nature.
Union.
Identity.
Resilience. Care.
Peace.
Liberty.
Perspective. Prosperity.
Bureaucracy.
Why did that happen now? Unity.
Community.
Without corruption.
Responsibility.
Partnership.
Yeah. So we go down then to Raimar.
Basically, I had two, but one was, and I stay on this, justice, because of rule of law, of course.
Yeah, I like a lot because it talk a lot to me unity in diversity, but I would say also what means for me European Union, it's opportunity.
My favorite word in Romanian, libertate, freedom.
Many thanks. Yeah, let's see, Dumitru.
I will also go with freedom, libertate.
You'll go with freedom? Okay, I will go with opportunity. So we have quite a balance in the votes. So I think we will do a short graph at the end of the day so that we can illustrate that, and let's see how many of those words will be debated in the working groups, and how many of them will be in the manifesto that we will prepare following this summit. So I really hope that we will be able to include them all, because this is what actually represents, from your perspective, the ideal European Union. And I really hope that our manifesto will show that and will highlight that. So let's see how we will conclude, other than with a photo, right?
Yeah, we will do a photo after our debate. The people from the room asked for it fervently, and afterwards we will go to lunch downstairs. We'll take lunch downstairs. Yes. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and for the lively debate. We'll have a lot of ideas to talk about in the working groups, and tomorrow we'll have again another debate with almost the whole delegation of USR Plus in the European Parliament about key priorities for the future of Europe. And by then we'll have also the people that working groups they will present also their priorities from each working group. So we promise it will be quite interesting. And and at the end, we'll try to promote this manifesto as much as possible. We'll go with it to the European Youth event, and also put it on the official website of the Conference on the Future of Europe. So there are interesting things ahead.
So thank you for your invitation, and please don't hesitate to be active, to organize events, because not only Friedrich Naumann Foundation, but in Renew Europe Group, we have budget to be spent, so please be active.
Thank you very much, and congrats to you all. Thank you.
Okay, Renew.
The photo